Good morning, everybody, from the Bereshit Forest in Tel Aviv. I'm Brian of London, and this is my Friday morning walk in the park, the Bereshit Forest. Bereshit being in the beginning, the first words of the Bible, Genesis. And let's do it. So, yesterday I posted a picture of Tommy. That's been posted before, but it's Tommy in Jerusalem, walking down a street, and it was a crop close-up, but it was him wearing a t-shirt with a picture of Donald Trump and with a badly photoshopped, religious Jewish hat and the side curls, payas, the little side ringlets of hair that Orthodox Jews keep. And somebody made that picture during the election cycle in the run-up to, and it was popular on t-shirts in Jerusalem, in the Jerusalem Shuk. Excuse me. There are tons of these t-shirt shops that have all sorts of t-shirts hanging up outside, often contradictory. So you'll have a sort of Free Palestine t-shirt, and hanging right next to it will be an IDF forces or the Israel Defense Forces kick ass or something like that. And these places don't give a shit about that. Oh, I'll probably get it. And if I get the music playing in the background, I get a copyright strike, which is all I need to get taken off YouTube later. Anyway, so this t-shirt. So Tommy saw this t-shirt hanging in a shop window. This was 5-6 days after the election, because Tommy arrived on November the 8th, and we went to sleep up at the Kinneret, and we woke up to the news to watch the last part of the states come in and the news that Trump had been elected. So we were walking through the Shuk in Jerusalem near the end of his trip, and he sees this t-shirt with Trump, and all these t-shirt places, they just print the t-shirt you want. So when he realized they were going to print him a t-shirt with this Trump picture as a Jew, he said, "Can I add something to it?" So, and of course, this is a shop owned by an Arab. I mean, it just is. I mean, it's obvious that Muhammad is serving it. He says, "Can I write 'fuck ISIS' on the t-shirt?" Excuse me for swearing, it's necessary for the story. I'm trying to keep the profanity down on the channel. But so he goes, so shopkeeper doesn't care. So they sit down at the little computer at the back of the shop and pick a font, and the guy with one finger types in English, F-U-C-K, ISIS, and Tommy prints the t-shirt and puts it on, walking through the Arab quarter of the Shuk in Jerusalem with Trump dressed as a Jew, and it says F ISIS. And the reason he wanted that message was because this was after the summer. It was that summer, the 2016 summer, where Tommy had gone out to the Euro football championships, and he'd been pictured holding a flag, an English flag, the red and white cross of St. George, and it said F ISIS on it. And that was when he got arrested when he got back to England, because the police accused him, the Crown prosecution brought the case of him saying that this was offensive to all Muslims, and his barrister correctly argued, and it got the case thrown out, that we were told that ISIS did not represent the views of all Muslims, so how can saying F ISIS be offensive to all Muslims? Case dismissed. Anyway, so he put that on the t-shirt. So that's the picture I tweeted out yesterday about Tommy, and I tweeted that out because we've had news that his appeal is being heard on the 24th of July now. So 10 days after the 14th of July, 14 Juillet, Bastille Day for the French, this great symbol of liberation, though the French Revolution is somewhat problematic. So he's got a date for the appeal. I don't actually know if it's still the same Sir Brian Levinson here in the appeal. I didn't see details of that. I'll probably ask someone today and find out more. Anyway, I also wanted to jump in on another topic, different but not related. Different because it's some subject dear to my heart. If you look at my Twitter bio, you'll see that I call myself an Indigenous rights activist. And again, last night, Trump was at one of his MAGA rallies, and he was calling out Pocahontas, Elizabeth Warren. And by the way, the No Agenda show, which everybody should be watching in the morning, the No Agenda show at least 3 years before Trump was on the scene, was calling Elizabeth Warren Pocahontas, because what Elizabeth Warren had done, and this is well documented and obvious, is that she got a job at Harvard or one of the big universities, an academic post, claiming to be part American Indian or native or indigenous or whatever the correct term is these days that doesn't get you into trouble, First Nations in Canada. And there's precious little evidence that she is. Now, okay, all over Twitter, everybody's screaming, take the test, DNA test. So I'm going to relate to you, which I've told before, but I'll tell it for this audience, that the way to look at Indigenous peoples is a little bit more nuanced and complex than where your DNA is from. What Ryan Bellerose, my great friend from the frozen north of Canada, and a real Indigenous American, Indigenous First Nations, pre-America, he describes Indigenous people as being 5 parts on a hand, and there being 5 components to it. Blood is a component, land, language, culture, and spirituality or religion. So obviously there's a DNA component to it, and this is what we find with the Jewish people especially. Judaism is so much bigger than a religion, but it's a religion as well. And we're instructed, for example, to accept converts into Judaism as if they are born Jews. We're not to make any distinction. I think it's the story of Ruth that fleshes that out. Now, it's not an easy process to convert to being a Jew in an Orthodox conversion. But once that happens, we take you. So obviously, while blood is a strong component for most Jews, it's not a necessary component. That's why it's 5 parts. Land. Well, this land of Israel has been sacred and the genesis of our people for all these years. And this is something that many Jews who arrive here will tell you. They get here, they get off the plane, they set foot in it, and something feels right, even if they've never seen it before. Language. I had a few tweets with some Copts. People were saying to Copts are the indigenous Egyptians, or what's left of them. They're certainly the Christian remnants who have been there a lot longer than Arab Muslims and Arabic Muslim culture. And the Coptic Christians are persecuted. There were Jews in Egypt, there aren't so many left, but they mostly fled to Israel or elsewhere in the sort of 50s and 60s. The Copts are indigenous, but many of them, and most of the time, they speak Arabic. Arabic is a language of an invasion, just like English is a language of invasion for a lot of the world, and French. These are colonial languages. There are massive colonial populations all over the world who speak English or French or Portuguese or other language that was spread by colonization, and Arabic is certainly one of those. Those people are not English. Americans are not English. They speak English, but you don't call them indigenous English people because of their language. No, same as you don't call the Copts Arabs because they speak Arabic. Arabic was the language of colonization. For us in Israel, we revived. Now, it never went away. It was used for prayer, and it was the language of our prayers, but it wasn't a spoken language. We revived Hebrew when we refounded our state, when we rebuilt our state. It was an early decision of the state. I mean, if they'd have chosen English, it would have been a bit convenient for me and for other immigrants. And there were discussions on French and Spanish and all sorts of other languages that they could have spoken, or even Arabic. But they didn't. They revived Hebrew, because Hebrew revived. Are we still live? Press heart if I'm still live. Damn notifications. Reviving the Hebrew language is important for keeping Judaism rooted in Israel, which it is. So blood, land, language, culture and traditions. We have those in spades here. Everything. The whole way that our calendar is built around the seasons works, particularly in Israel. Doesn't work elsewhere. You know, the pattern of rains and sun and harvesting and all of this, when Pesach is, when Rosh Hashanah is, all of these things mean so much more in Israel than anywhere else. It's obvious. And that's our culture, because our culture comes from here. The food we eat on in holidays and ceremonies, it's all built around this land. It's indigenous to this area. And finally, spirituality or religion. It's a religion as well. Judaism is a religion. People practice it as a religion. But you need all those 5 elements in some mix. And it would appear that Elizabeth Warren, besides ghost writing a cookbook, hasn't got them. I mean, I'm not one to comment on other people's indigenous status, but Trump's attacking her on it. He seems on solid ground. And if there's one thing I know from Ryan, assuming somebody else's indigenous identity it's a shitty thing to do. It's a very shitty thing to do. That's what the Palestinians try to do here. They try to assume the Jewish identity. They try to take it over. They try to claim that they're Canaanites or other crap. There is no element of Canaanite culture in Arab Muslim culture. Arab Muslim culture is quite a simple invasion by jihad, al-Hijra. That's how it got brought to Israel. That's how there comes to be Arabs here. Most of them had left. There were 200,000 or 300,000 souls in the whole of Israel and Jordan in the late 1800s or mid 1800s. Anybody who arrived later came because Jews came back, made the place grow, built industry, built farms, built commerce, built all of that. Arabs flooded in for work. That's the whole story. And if Trump's going to have fun with Pocahontas, Elizabeth Warren, good luck. The Democrats are just being, I mean, their whole abolish ICE thing. I mean, how dumb do you have to be? You're a nation of laws. You're not, open borders thing. I mean, there might be a few tens of thousands of people in America who care passionately and think that they should destroy their country and not have the greatest country on earth, or the second greatest, perhaps. But I don't think it's going to wash with millions and 100 million Americans. They're not going to vote for suicide. I think Europe's coming back from it. Last thing, I was at a party last night thrown by the Austrian ambassador, because Austria has assumed the presidency of the EU for 6 months. It's a revolving position. And the ambassador gave a nice little talk about how nice it was to be able to cross borders in Europe. And who would have thought in 1945, as they're burying the dead of their massive world war, who would have thought that one day you could move freely from France to Germany or Austria to Germany? And then he kind of had a bit of a la-di-da, and in fact the EU ambassador also spoke. The EU ambassador, there is an EU ambassador to Israel. He also spoke in this kind of, wouldn't it be all nice if we all had open borders without Arabs? I mean, it's just such, it was a wonderful party. Thank you very much. Idan Reichel was nice to hear. But just dump the naivete. Dump the naivete. You can have open borders when you're all Christian nations. You all have an underlying value system that works. But as soon as you bring into that this malign, unfortunately inspired by one religion of peace, problematic set of values and ideas, as soon as you bring that into the mix, all your dreams of having free border crossings and movement and free movement of people, all of that's going to be destroyed because you were too accepting of people who want to destroy you. And we're not going to do that in Israel. I mean, we don't care. We don't need an open border with Jordan or Egypt. We're going to have very secure, nicely guarded borders. If those countries are acting responsibly and nicely towards us, we'll allow passage. But no, we don't need open borders with Arab Muslim states, because it'll end in disaster. And we're not about to get rid of any security that we have between us and Arabs living a few kilometers that way. It's not going to happen. So thanks very much. And this is Brian of London. I'm in the Bereshit Forest in Tel Aviv, signing off and saying Shabbat Shalom to all my Jewish friends, and have a great weekend to all of you, and good luck. Go England on Saturday. Wow. Please do not do that penalty crap again. Okay, just win 3-0 normal time. No drama. Get a couple of goals in early so we can all just relax and enjoy it. Okay? Thank you very much, England. And free Tommy.